Yeah, if you want to, the stage is yours. You just can start.
Cool, okay. I was just wondering, because wow, if there's no break and we've been staring on the screen, so there's no gap in between, but it was really nice because I can straight like follow through with my presentation and building on what Lola's already explained about the 9 million sensory receptors we got on our skin. And so I can, and that will be really important for the presentation that I'm giving, introducing the Pesso Boyden system psychomotor, which I combine with wingwave. So Pesso Boyden is a psychotherapy model, and I got a little slideshow so that I would like to show you and then talk you through. And then I'll have a little film for you with a demonstration that I did with my colleague Deborah. And then hopefully we got some time for discussion, which would be really interesting. So I just start sharing my screen, and I hope I will be still able to see you and connect with you. So I start sharing my screen. Oh, what's going on here? Okay. Do I close this one here? And then we'll just play this. Okay. So I'm Daniela Schlemm, and I am, that's a good question, who am I? I think we're all on the journey of, like you see on my logo, becoming who we are really meant to be. So that question of like, who am I, brings me to this philosopher, Caspar David Brecht, who said, who am I? And if yes, how many? Which I really like, because we all got like many different hats in our life. And some we have trained really well and we can play that role really well. And others, they are not so well trained. So giving a presentation online in front of this screen is new to me, as I'm a mover and I like to move. And as we know from wingwave, we can access our brain much better when we look around and when we move. I wonder if you can actually see me. Yes. You can?
You can, yes, exactly.
Good, because I'm just looking at my presentation.
No, we don't see any presentation, we just see you. Do you want to share your presentation?
Yes.
No, there's nothing about a presentation.
Why is that then not happening? I escape. So share screen I got, is that right? So I do share my screen and then you should be able to see it, shouldn't you?
Maybe we should, but no, we don't see.
Well, I'll do it again. So I open my presentation. Can you see my screen?
No, we don't see it.
Wait. Share.
Yeah.
Now?
This looks good.
Oh,
yeah.
This is good. See.
Applause. We got your presentation now.
You got me. Okay. So I can play this now and I can also see you. That's nice. Otherwise, I feel very lonely here. But it might be so. So going back to this first slide. The Power of Life is our 1st of May Congress today. And I want to start with a quote from Pesso. And that is, we are made to be able to be happy in an imperfect world that is endlessly unfolding. Or you will see yourself here, don't you? Well, I'll put this down here. Okay. So that means actually that we all got in our genes the possibility to feel happy, to wire in certain feelings, basically the feelings of pleasure, satisfaction, meaning, and connectedness. And then, how do you are screen sharing, and how do I show you the next slide now? Gosh.
You did it, you just changed the side.
Did I?
Yes, you did, because you had another slide and then you changed it to the first slide again. So you have done it already.
Yeah, okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah,
so
great.
Yeah, I got it now. So what is Pesso Boyden system psychomotor therapy and why that funny name? So that funny name is because it's a psychotherapy method that got developed by Pesso and Diane Boyden, who were two dancers And that was in New York, in the cities, must have been quite an exciting time. And they were teaching dancers and did dance performances. And they somehow accidentally developed this therapy method by finding out that some of the most trained dancers weren't able to perform certain movements because there was an emotional block. So they got suddenly interested in the individuals, no more so much in the performance, but more in what is that block and why is that block there. And with wingwave, we know a lot about these blocks already, and we can work with that with wingwave already. And at that moment, I got really interested in this psychomotor therapy. And I had trained as a clown and a movement analyst and did a lot of like performance on stage, and found that my body was having certain movements that kept repeating. So I was repeating specific movements, and I wondered what that was about. So, and an emotion, like we found out early on, it's the word motio in it. It's an energy that is in the body, and the body stores memories as well, and energies that wants to express themselves. That motion is basically energy that leads to an action, and we're seeking for an interaction, for a satisfying interaction, and then we'll experience that feeling of satisfaction and create meaning. And I'll say a bit more about that in a sec. So what's the goal? The goal is to help people to become more truly who they are. And that addresses the topic of change. Are we actually changing, or are we simply improving who we are? Do we have an essential self that's perhaps not being fully lived? And if we have that essential self, then we want to be that. And if things go well, we then experience these feelings of pleasure, satisfaction, meaning, and connectedness. Okay, so talking about all these receptors that are on our skin, 900 million. We'll see like that little image, and imagine you had all these little dots in there were little neurons, and they have the possibility to connect. And if we experience when we're growing up, and you can see it a bit like, I think, the metaphor of a seed, like an acorn that holds all the information about how this tree is going to look like if it meets the right conditions at the right time to grow, and then it grows beautifully into its shape, and in the end it bears fruit. So if we have a childhood where we actually have our needs met, and we experience that satisfaction and that pleasure, then we wire into our neurology all these really lovely feelings, like the heart and the smiley face and the sun is shining, and basically we feel safe and empowered. And if we don't get that, then we might wire in more unpleasant feelings. So let me see. So these there are certain things that need to happen in our childhood. We need to meet our basic needs, and they need to be met with the right people at the right time in our development. So just that before. So we got 5 life tasks after Pesso. And number 1 will be meeting our basic needs. And I will come back to that because that's really, really important. And I can't explain the whole Pesso method, but I give you a tiny bit of it and how I later on use that with clients in a shortened version. So I'm also really excited about finding shortcuts. That's why I got so inspired by the wingwave method as well, because it's really changed my life. And it was a shortcut after doing lots of different therapeutic approaches. So we got 5 life tasks. And 1 is we need to meet our basic needs. Then there is the integration of polarities. I'll explain it a bit more in a second. The development of consciousness, the development of the pilot, and then fulfilling our unique potentiality. So let's go a bit deeper into that. So first, basic needs are, we need to have a place. We need to have nurture. We need to be supported. And we need to have protection and healthy, loving limits. And sometimes working with clients on wingwave, I get a lot of information, and sometimes I realized that it's not always what has happened that creates the block, but there is also something that should have happened and didn't happen. So this is about what should have happened, what you should have experienced growing up that didn't happen. So it's like a little deficit. There is a little, it's like, imagine you have, you make a circle with your fingers. Can you see me?
Yes, I can see.
Yeah. So if you see me, so if you make a circle with the fingers and I go like this and I would stop here, that's extremely frustrating. So, and some people would even like come and push these fingers together to go like, we close that. We come to a closure. We come to the circle of completion. It feels like there is a thing. And rather than taking something out, it's also about resources and putting something in that you should have had, and that there is the possibility to still experience that. So let me see what's next. Okay, so on the life task, the integration of polarities. So that means we need to integrate genetically sperm and egg. So we need to know and own comfortably the gene pool of our mother and our father. So we won't have any conflict. Sometimes that happens when parents split up and then the mother talks about the father, oh, you're just like that, or and then we're not comfortable with these parts of ourselves. Then there is neurological, the left brain, right brain connection, good communication, which really, that's why wingwave is so great as well, because it really helps with that, to have that connection. Sensory motor, skillful in all combinations of perception and action, feeling comfortable in our bodies and perceiving and acting, and our femaleness, our maleness, might be sometimes even like the part of you that is a beach bum that wants to be out in the sun right now. Like, I want to be out in the sun. Part of me wants to be out in the sun, and part of me wants to give this presentation and things. That's where, and that's the integrating of polarities. So then we have the development of consciousness. So we need to develop our consciousness to be aware, basically. Aware about what's going on in our inner world, our interior world, what ideas, images, and develop a strong sense of our identity and ego. And then we'll have the development of the pilot. And the pilot is a bit like the president of the United States of Consciousness. So it's that self-organizing part that sits in the center of all of it, and like a conductor a bit, and says, yeah, well, I have this right now, or a bit of that, to what's needed. Being in charge and making consciously informed decisions. Okay, and then finally, if we had all of that, we can realize our personal uniqueness and develop our potentiality. So we come into maturity and bring the precious fruit of our existence into the world and contribute with our uniqueness. And that will be the tree with ripe fruits that we bring to the world. And that's our journey. And we are always on the journey of becoming. So, and early on, I talked about the basic needs and of support and place, protection, limits. And if we didn't have these needs met, and most of us will not have had those needs met, because we are just human and we're doing the best that we can, and we parent the best that we can. It's almost impossible to have all of these needs met when you're growing up. So this is about like successful parenting. So, but these unmet needs, they don't just go away, and they will influence and distort our present day perception. So it's like the seed is still waiting there for the right condition to happen so it can flourish. So it just doesn't go away and causes sometimes trouble because we're still trying to satisfy those childhood needs, and then we might overburden and overload present day relationships with that. Because
Daniela,
yeah,
I don't want to interrupt you, but just a quick plea. Could you talk a little bit slower so Christiane can translate a little bit more?
Was that Christiane? Okay.
Yeah, just a little bit because you're quite fast.
Yeah, I'm just trying to rush up so that the next speaker won't have to be late again. So
everything is fine. Yeah.
Okay, I go a bit slower.
We feel your energy, but I think it will be a little bit easier. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we overburden these relationships like friends and teachers and employees. So in our work environment as well, or especially also with marriage partners, where we actually want a need met by our partner that should have met early on with the right person in our childhood. So we would have created the meaning from there. So for example, if I have a need for validation and I might ask my partner continuously for that validation, and they might get a bit annoyed with that at some point, like what I said at so many times and it just doesn't go in. It's like a bucket with a hole and you just like give that validation and gives it, and you need it again and again and again because that need wasn't met at the right age with the right people. So that might potentially overload relationships. Okay, so we've got a little image here. So we have the unmet needs that we needed to have with our parent, sibling, playmate, and that then gets transferred over to boss, partner, friend, and it influences how we think and act and sense and feel. Okay, so it does come back to meeting those basic needs. Before we can rightfully exist, there has to be a place for us, and we need to have a place in the uterus of our mother that feels loving and welcoming, with parents that are looking forward to have us, that can't wait to get to know us and wanting to get to know us and find out who we are. So we need to have a place in their hearts and in their minds to feel that we belong and that we have a place in this world. We actually live in that gaze of the parents when we're born. And if there is a deficit around that, if we feel disconnected from this world, and we might feel as we don't fit anywhere and we're still searching to belong somewhere. We might even move to other countries, and or we might be occupied with like ideas around death or spirituality or other worlds. So we're not really here in this world, in that reality, grounded. So, and then we have nurture. We all need nurture, and that keeps us alive, and we open ourselves to nurture through the umbilical cord and then by the mouth. So this is all very sensory. So what needs to happen in our development. And that nurture makes us full inside and our bodies and happy, and we feel full and satisfied. So that experience of being full and satisfied. And if there's a deficit around that nurture, and we do not receive sufficient nurturance at the appropriate time from the appropriate figure, we might feel empty, unparented, hollow inside, angry, and unsatisfied, or orally boundless, like we are insatiable and we're looking for nurturance. So if there's a deficit around that place, around nurture, I mean, oh, that we got that like, that's too much down there. Okay, so I have mistaken there, so forget about that. Support. it's got to do with gravity as well. So overcoming the force of gravity for the newborn child, to be picked up, to be held, and to supply us with a sense of bottom and ground. So held and supported. And if we fall when we are a toddler, we will get picked up. And it defines the weight-bearing areas as well. Again, it's also about groundedness and feeling our strengths. And so if we have a deficit there, we feel groundless and insecure or have poor balance. We might be fearful to fall in a bottomless pit with a tendency to injure our own supporting limbs sometimes. So, and then of course we need protection, because we are, as a human being, when we are a newborn child, we are pretty helpless, and we're not like animals that just like drop out and get up and run around. So we will need a lot of protection, because we are soft and fragile, and we are defenseless. And as a consequence, we need that protection from the outside. So from our caregivers, our parents, that will act as guardians to our boundaries, so that nothing really bad will happen to us. And so they offer a hard protect, like a shield against that external danger, and buffer us. And in the body, that's like very much they are in front of us. If we look at like support that I talked about earlier, it's more like it's in the back. You can feel like I back you up. That's what you say. I got your back. And this is more about shielding. I protect you. I won't allow anything bad happening to you. And if we haven't experienced that, then we might feel helpless, sensitive, powerless, vulnerable, fearful, and penetrable. Okay. And then we need like limits, loving limits. Again, that's also a bit about the boundary and feeling ourselves. So we are born with a powerful genetic nature, and we have the capacity to affect and be affected by the external world. And we need to discover that with loving interactions. So where's the boundary? When am I overstepping? What are these? And I need to learn that my power is not uncontrollable. So that somebody from like the parents from the outside can hold it. They can hold my power. So because if they can't, then we might have somebody like Trump who doesn't really know where his limits are, and still looking for that limit, for that stop, not just up to here and not further. And that needs to be loving. So wherever that force comes out of the child, the parent needs to lovingly meet those forces and satisfying that basic need. So basically, there's like two situations where if we come out and we are this power, and it's all about like shape and counter shape and having the right, like in a puzzle game, the right fit, the right interaction. So if I'm a child and my powerful forces come out, my strengths come out, yeah, and it meets the parent. So if there is a healthy limit, loving limit, then that's not crushing. So some of us might have experienced that we got crushed. We come with our energy, we got crushed. And others might have experienced no one's there. And then I'm just like floating around and I can't feel myself, and I start to get afraid of my own power. So this is also about empowerment, so that I don't need to be afraid of my own power, because it can be limited and lovingly held. So I am allowed to use all of my power, and I don't need to self-limit myself later in life. For example, with guilt and shame. That's how we self-limit ourselves if we have that, or we become extremely omnipotent and we're just like become a little Trump. So if we have a lovingly limited child, then it evolves into a free, spontaneous adult without any fear of its genetic forces going out of control. Okay. So what is reality? how do we perceive reality? How do we create reality? Pesso says our present consciousness is a tapestry woven from past memory, and experiences from that past continue to influence the way we feel, think, and act in the present. And conclusions you do from that, so the meaning you made from that past, are filed as old programs or outdated blueprints. And you will know that there's something that goes very much together with the wingwave. So therapeutic goals on PBSP, that's the short version of Pesso Boyden System Psychomotor Therapy, that's the full name, is to gain clarity about confused and distorted present-day relationships due to unmet needs of the past, and then clearly and satisfyingly express symptom-making unprocessed emotion and meet them. And then we go into like talking about the hypnosis, and Marco Ratschlag was giving a talk earlier on about the power of the imagination. And sometimes we need to train that to be able to do that. And there's also reasons why people find it easy to imagine things and others find it more difficult to imagine a different kind of reality. So we symbolically attend to unmet needs of the past with appropriately named role-playing group members, while emotionally and cognitively in touch with earlier levels of consciousness. So in the original Pesso Boyden, that's a group psychotherapy, and there would be real people taking on roles of ideal parents. So I could pick a role player to play my ideal father figure, but it's not like in family constellations where these role players then improvise. It would be absolutely needing to be a match to what the client wants to experience. So it's not about we're guessing around what I think they need. It really needs to come from the client. And this approach is very much about a co-creation between a therapist or coach and client. It's a co-creation, and it's a creative, personalized little piece of theater that we create. And it needs to be so believable, like going into cinema. Unfortunately, in COVID times, we can't do that because we can't get together, but at some point that might be possible again. But because the imagination is so powerful, we can do it differently. So the concept of ideal figures, and I've just mentioned them with these role players. So ideal parents are symbolic figures who can help you to draw up new maps and develop new perspectives. Of course, ideal figures don't exist in real life, and no one will have had them, as we are human and not perfect. So they're archetypes. And this is also not to make the real parents bad parents, none of that, exactly for that reason. It is not real, but it can be real if we can imagine it. So in a symbolic way, in a hypothetical past. So we all do our best. So ideal parents are constructed to provide symbolic, auditory, sensory motor interactions, giving optimal satisfaction of unmet basic needs and necessary developmental experiences. So they're kinesthetic, sensory, motor. So a bit like working with wingwave and the inner voices and images. So we now got, and that's so great because I think the next conference, wingwave conference, will be being in touch. And this is really relating to that. So we make it more three-dimensional. So that imagination will make it more three-dimensional using our skin and adding touch and pressure. And it might be in the front of the body, in the back of the body, whatever is longed for, and the body knows. The body knows. So there are some exercises we can do to also prepare ourselves to get to know our body and how we respond. And that needs a bit of training, but it's you will know. The body knows it when it sees it and feels it. So, so there are kinesthetic sensory motor elements for the client to construct a symbolic memory of how their past might have been with such parental or family figures. So it's a piece of play, and you can see it as a personalized piece of theater. It's a co-creation of the coach or therapist and the client, with the client in the driving seat of his or her experience. And it offers the client the opportunity to experience interaction with the kind of parents the client needed and wished for as a child. So, okay, so, and it's actually really simple. So I've experimented using wingwave and just taken out the main exercise, which is basically the antidote. The whole process is much longer to get there, but the ideal parent size exercise, well, we can't do muscle testing in an online format, but ideally we could muscle test everything. We could muscle test if that's the right figure we've been chosen. We could muscle test if that's the right kind of touch. We can test, because very often it's about, like, is it an issue of safety that I needed to experience in the past, or is it an issue of empowerment that I needed to experience in the past? So there's lots of chances of muscle testing that to get really quick to what's needed and what you needed back then in the past, and then put that into your brain in the same place where the real experience was, so to counter that. So yes, I've said all of this. It's ideally happening in a group setting. And in that online format, we can use cushions. We use cushions and blankets and objects as symbolic role figures. So we don't have like real parents to speak what we needed to hear or touch us in the way that we needed it. Then we can use our imagination, which is super powerful, and we can use cushions. So the exercise is like this. The ideal parents were developed in PBSP to give the possibility to experience new events in a symbolic reality. Imagine you had the chance to be born again. So you had the chance, you'll be born again, not to your real parents. And again, it's not to make the real parents bad, but with a completely different, completely brand new set of parents. And these parents, there would be the kind of parents, there would be the absolute match, the perfect fit for someone with precisely your potentialities. So, and then imagine, how would they be? How would they look like? How would they have responded to you? And how would they have responded to each other? So when you make that connection with an earlier, with your inner child, we'll take that as an example, your inner child at a certain age, which can be muscle tested again, imagining you had the ideal parents, what would you wish for? Would they be playful? Would you want to see them like how much they are in love with each other, so they're looking at each other? Would you like to feel them behind you, have backup, have an ideal father that says, go for it, I back you up? Or a mom says, I want to know what's going on, so I want to know, I want to get it right for you. So imagining, what would you long for? Very simple exercise. So we would set the stage with this exercise. How would you like them to be? What would you like to hear from them? What kind of touch would you have liked from them? And then we'll start to give this a body so you can feel their presence. So, and I got a little video for you in a moment to have a look at how that might look like, which I did with my colleague Deborah. And she's a very experienced Pesso therapist, and she's done a lot already because she knows the method very well, and shows us how to do that. And so you get an example of how that might look like. Yeah, so until the body knows when you got it. So we use cushions, and I best show you how that's being done. And then you might see at the end when we get to a perfect fit, that bodily experience, I'll ask you to take a snapshot of yourself, and then we would use the slow pursued eye movements, like the slow eye movements, to anchor that deeper into the neurology. Yeah, so that's how I've been working with this, and I'll show you the little film. So how do I get out of here? Here, put this down. And then where's the little film? Put this down. And this, yeah. Okay.
Hello, Deborah. Nice to see you. Hello, Daniela.
Can you hear that actually?
Yes, we can.
Good.
I can hear it.
Good. Yeah.
Clear and loud.
See you too. We're here today to give the people on the Power of Life conference, the wingwave conference, a bit of an idea of how we're using, or how it's possible to use wingwave in combination with Pesso work. And I've introduced to them the idea of the ideal parent exercise, where we're going to create a scene, a fully embodied, like a theatrical scene, a personalized piece of theater, using that idea of ideal parents, which also helps us to find out how much you are still attached to the old map, how much you can imagine the possibility of being born to a whole new set of brand new ideal parents that would have fitted your soul perfectly. So what shall we do? Do you want to maybe, so Deborah Clark, my colleague in England from Oxfordshire, and she's an accredited Pesso therapist. So yeah, with lots of experience. Okay.
Thank you. Well, I'm delighted to be working with you this afternoon. And yeah, so I've got, as we do lots of this work online at the moment, and we don't always have people, which we would ordinarily have in a group, I've got some cushions, I've got some blankets, and I think when you're doing this exercise with a therapist, you're really going to be looking at what you needed from ideal parents. So I guess I'll maybe start with just taking a few breaths, going into my body, and maybe you'll just guide me as what merging on my face and my body. So
yeah. So, and you already mentioned, ideally, this is done with real people, but it's possible to do it online using actually big cushions for that sense of touch. If we don't have real people to put the hands on the body, so we can make that happen, and the imagination is powerful. Okay. Yeah. So, take a breath, connect with yourself. You know the exercise very well. So imagining yourself, if you were born again and you had a whole new set of ideal parents, connecting with that child. So what would you have wished for?
Wow. I'm immediately feeling wanting to sink back into something bigger than me. Mm-hmm. And I've got lots of cushions here, but I also have some bean bags as well.
Okay, so bean bags are always good. I use them myself as well, together with the wingwave music. Okay, so
I've got myself like that. Then I can feel sort of something bigger than me.
Mm-hmm. So these will be ideal parents, and the ideal parents will be behind you, and they will be bigger than you.
Yeah, and you can see that I've got some cushions here. So I almost feel like my arms are being held here. So I've got that support. And now what I'm feeling is the ideal parents. I'm not really thinking about this too much. I'm not thinking what would they look like or what did I need. I'm just using my body actually to go, if I was little, how little do I feel? About 3 or 4 maybe. And I kind of like this feeling of wriggling into them.
So the ideal parents behind you would say, we've been your ideal parents if you were 3 or 4 years old. We would have been there and you could have wriggled into us.
Yeah, I could have
You could have given your whole weight into us and wriggled into us.
Yeah, and now I'm feeling, I feel a little bit exposed. So I've got some blankets here, so I'm gonna just cover my body up so I can feel completely cozy.
So they would say, if we'd been there, you would have felt completely cozy and you would have felt our body all around you.
Yeah, now I'm feeling like, oh, tired.
And if you felt tired, we would have been there and we could have cuddled up on the sofa. Is that the right words that I'm saying? And
if we could have been there, you would have been able to cuddle up with us.
So they say, if we'd been there, you would have been able to cuddle up with us.
And I'm noticing now I'm really like, just feeling quite relieved. Oh, like I'm letting go.
And they would say, if we'd been there, you could have let go, just like this.
Oh.
And you would have been able to release, and just like this, you would have been able to breathe deeply. And we would have said, good sounds. You can wriggle into us.
Yeah, it makes, when you said good sounds, that made me feel quite proud.
So they say, with us, you would have felt proud.
Yeah,
you would have been wriggling into us.
Pleased with myself.
And you would have felt pleased with yourself.
Yeah, I just aware of how tired I feel actually. Like I've just been a lot of tension. I've been holding a lot of tension. I could just let go and be held.
Yeah. If we'd been there when you were 3, 4 years old, we would have held you and you just could let go. Is that right?
Yeah. Just wriggling my feet around now. It's quite nice feeling my feet being pushed against. I've got the arm of the sofa, but I'm feeling like I could push against that and that would be still firm and I could play a little bit.
So the idea parents might have said, if we'd been there, we would have pushed your feet and you could have pushed against us and we would have been playful.
Yeah. Yeah. And now I feel tired again.
And you just could have let go. So right? Yeah. And you give me the words, so also to explain the words that you want to hear, what else you want to feel. We get it really right for you.
I like the idea of them being proud of me, pleased, and I could feel pleased with myself.
So they would have said, if we'd been there, we would have said, we're so proud of you. And you could have felt pleased with yourself.
I would have felt pleased with myself.
You would have felt pleased with yourself. How's that?
Feeling of being held and not having to do anything and not having to be in charge and just someone else being responsible for me.
And they say, if we'd been your ideal parents, we would have been responsible for you. It would have been our job to hold you, and we would have been responsible for you. And you could have been just letting go, feeling held.
I feel quite tired now.
And if you felt tired, we would have been there. And you just have cuddled up with us. And just check in if there's anything else that you would like to feel or hear.
No, I just feel really relaxed and really like comfortable being held. And like just nice to have this space just completely let go in.
Okay. So they say, with us, you would have been relaxed. And completely let go. You got it? So take a snapshot of that like 3-dimensional picture with that felt sense and place it with an image of yourself when you needed at most, 3 or 4 years old, having had that. And when you got that, just like open your eyes and look around the space, slow eye movements, just looking around.
Ja, das Ganze. Wir haben einen Film gemacht. Also, das ist ein Film, den sie gerade ablaufen lassen. Sie ist aktuell hier oben. Wir sind aber schon ganz schön.
Just to get that deeper into your neurology.
11 Stück drin.
Okay.
And then when you're ready, we can de-roll these cushions that were representing the ideal parents and just check them up. So there are no more the ideal parents and
Okay.
cushions and blankets.
I'm trying to stop it because we're a bit running over time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah.
Okay.
Thanks for showing. So we can expand on that when we're there on the conference in November. Good. Thank you so much.
I hope it stops now. Yeah.
Yeah, it did. We just see you now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So yeah, so now I'm a bit over time as well. So
no worries. Just go ahead.
Okay. So when is the next starting? Just in 2 minutes?
No. We got a little break. And the next will be at 4:15.
Okay. So then there's time for some questions.
Exactly.
And discussion. Yeah. So anybody who's got a question, please feel free to ask questions. How was that? Do I have any?
Hi, my name is Lynn.
Hello.
I'd like to know, do you test the age where you go back to find the ideal parent? You test the age with the myostatic test?
I could test that actually. So so I've been playing around with that because the Pesso method is a really advanced system, and it's basically people that are already therapists that go for it. So Bessel van der Kolk has written a little chapter in his book, The Body Keeps the Score. And I'd really like it to make it more accessible for people to have that possibility to put something supportive in. So my idea is of like muscle testing. I couldn't experiment too much with it, but I did do some of that work, especially using the slow eye movements to weave the antidote in. But the possibility to really look at what's needed or where's a deficit, support is a deficit, and then look at what age, so what comes to mind. And sometimes there is a negative, how it really was, and then we want to antidote that straight away.
Okay.
And put the opposite experience in. And hopefully when we get that woven in at that age with the snapshot, then it sits exactly in the same place of the in the brain where the original is. So we're not erasing history, we're adding something, and then the brain takes the more positive, the better possibility.
Yeah. Okay.
And then our world starts changing on the outside.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Thank you, yeah.
Okay, any further questions?
So yeah, and looking at really bringing in the body and the sensory experience into the wing wave, I find are really exciting. So I've been like always, when I came across the Pesso and wing wave are the two methods that I use mostly. And I'm a bit like a magpie. I've been like gathering lots of like what's out there. I want to sort of like find happiness since I was little, and through dance and performance, I found something that really fits well together. And the funny thing is as well, you do not know what it feels like. The funny thing is, you know that it's right when you feel it, and then you might get a hit of like grief of experience something that you should have had that you didn't experience, but the body knows it. The body knows exactly what feels right. Anything else?
It's quite quiet.
Yeah, it's quite quiet.
Daniela, thank you so much for your impressive presentation. I think we all learned many new things about the El Paso theory, and for your energy and everything you gave to us. Thank you so much.
Yes, thanks so much. Yeah, lots of love. Yeah. See you then. Enjoy the rest of the day.